If only I had asked more questions when Mr. Crane knew my son's middle name before I ever told him. But when your child finally stops getting bullied and starts bringing home perfect grades, you don't question the teacher who made it happen. That's how I ended up standing in my son's bedroom at 2 a.m., watching 9-year-old Felix carve symbols into his own arm with a compass while whispering, "The circle must close. The promise must be kept. He's waiting for me." Blood dripped onto his Spider-Man sheets. His eyes were open but rolled back white. And through the window, I could see Mr. Crane standing in our driveway, smiling up at me. The same way he'd smiled at the parent-teacher conference when he told me Felix was special. When he said he'd been waiting years for a student like him. I understood then that I had handed my son to something that had been hunting him since before we moved to Millbrook. And it would take everything I had to get him back. We moved to Millbrook in late August after my job transfer left me with no real choice. Felix hated leaving his old school. He was shy and anxious, the kind of child who needed time to feel safe. The first week of 3rd grade was brutal. He came home crying every day. The other kids mocked his stutter, called him weird, and shoved him during recess. By the 2nd week, he stopped eating breakfast, woke from nightmares, and begged me to homeschool him. As a single parent with a new job and no support system, I felt helpless. I couldn't quit to teach him at home. I couldn't afford private school. All I could do was email his teacher, Miss Walsh, and hope she'd help. But Miss Walsh was 65 and counting down to retirement. She told me Felix needed to toughen up, that kids will be kids. That he'd adjust eventually. Nothing changed. Until Mr. Crane arrived. Miss Walsh suffered a stroke on a Friday in mid-September. By Monday morning, the school already had a replacement, Mr. Crane. He was around 40 tall and thin, with perfectly combed dark hair and eyes so deep brown they almost looked black. He dressed in old-fashioned 3-piece suits, complete with a pocket watch, as if he'd stepped out of another century. But he was extraordinary. Within 3 days, the children adored him. He made lessons feel like adventures, told stories that held the class spellbound, and remembered every child's name after meeting them just once. And somehow, Felix changed. He stopped crying. Stopped complaining. He started smiling again. The bullying vanished. His grades leapt from C's to straight A's. When I asked how school was going, he would say, "Mr. Crane makes everything better. He understands me. He says I'm special." I was so relieved that I never thought to question it. I'd love to know in the comments section where you're watching from and how interesting you're finding the story. The parent-teacher conference was scheduled for a Thursday evening in early October. I arrived 10 minutes late and apologized as I hurried in. Mr. Crane stood the moment I entered. He shook my hand and said, "Ah, Vivian. So good to finally meet Felix's mother. Please sit." His hand was cold. Too cold. Like he'd just come in from winter air. But it was 70 degrees outside. I sat across from him in the small classroom as he laid out Felix's work. Every page was flawless. Neat handwriting. Advanced reading. Perfect scores. "Your son is remarkable, Miss Vivian," he said. "He has a gift. A very rare gift." Pride swelled in my chest. "Thank you. He's been so much happier since you started teaching." Mr. Crane smiled. "Felix and I share a special connection. He reminds me of someone I knew long ago. A boy with the same potential. The same spark." He leaned closer. "Tell me, has Felix always been sensitive? Aware of things other children don't notice?" The question unsettled me, but I answered honestly. "Yes. Since he was little. He talked about seeing shadows. Hearing whispers. His pediatrician said it was just an overactive imagination." Mr. Crane's eyes lit up. "It's not imagination or perception. Felix can sense what others can't. It's a gift that runs in certain bloodlines." He pulled out a drawing Felix had made. It showed a man standing in a circle of symbols. The man looked exactly like Mr. Crane. "He drew this yesterday. Without being asked. As if he knew what I needed to see." My skin prickled. "What do you mean by what you needed to see?" Mr. Crane folded his hands. "I've been searching for a child like Felix for many years, Vivian. Someone with this type of sight. Someone who can help me complete something important. A ritual that was interrupted long ago. Your son is the key." He said it like it was perfectly normal. Like I should understand. I stood up. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Felix is 9 years old. He's not the key to anything. He's just a kid. Mr. Crane didn't move. Sit down, Vivian. You don't understand yet. But you will. Felix already does. He's been dreaming about me, hasn't he? Drawing symbols he's never seen before? Speaking words he shouldn't know. My blood went cold. Because it was true. That night, I searched Felix's room while he slept. Under his bed, I found 14 drawings. All of them showed the same thing. A circle made of strange symbols. A man standing in the center, and 7 children standing around the outside. In every drawing, one child's face was blank. The other 6 children had X marks over their faces. When I checked Felix's closet, I found his homework from the past month. Every single assignment had the same symbols drawn in the margins. Small, hidden, but consistent. Always the same pattern. I woke Felix and showed him the drawings. Sweetie, why did you make these? He looked confused. I didn't make them, Mom. Mr. Crane told me to copy them. He said it's part of a special project. Only the smart kids get to do it. My hands shook. What kind of project? Felix smiled. The smile didn't reach his eyes. He said if I finish all the drawings, I get to help him with something amazing. Something that will make me powerful. Make me special forever. Before I could question him further, Felix said something in a language I didn't recognize. Then his eyes rolled back, and he collapsed. I rushed Felix to the emergency room. Doctors ran every test they could think of. An EEG. Blood work. A CT scan. Everything came back normal. No seizure activity. No infection. No medical explanation at all. Felix woke up 2 hours later with no memory of collapsing. No memory of speaking that strange language. The doctor told me it was likely stress-related and said there was nothing to worry about. But I worried. The next morning, I called the school and asked to speak with the principal. I wanted Mr. Crane removed from Felix's class. Mrs. Thornton listened patiently. Then she said, Mrs. Parker, Mr. Crane is the best teacher we've had in years. Parents speak about him with nothing but admiration. Test scores are up across the board. If you're concerned about Felix specifically, I suggest counseling. But I won't remove a teacher over vague fears and children's drawings. Then she hung up. No one would help. No one saw the danger. I was alone. Again. If you've ever tried to warn people about something serious and been completely dismissed, leave a comment below. Your story matters. I started digging into Mr. Crane's background. There were no records. No teaching license under that name in the state database. No social media presence. No home address on file with the school. When I asked the secretary, she said all his paperwork had been submitted digitally and approved by the district office. But when I called the district office, they had no record of approving a substitute named Crane. It was like he didn't exist. Except he did. He was teaching my son. Influencing him. Changing him. I went to the public library and searched historical records for anyone named Crane in Millbrook. The librarian, an elderly man named Howard, helped me search old newspapers. We found something from 1923. An article about a teacher named Theodore Crane who had worked at the old Millbrook schoolhouse. He had disappeared one night along with 6 students. All boys. All 9 years old. The bodies were found a week later in the woods. Drained of blood. Arranged in a circle. The 7th boy was never found. Theodore Crane was never caught. The case went cold. I showed Howard the drawing Felix had made. The man in the circle. He went pale. That's from the crime scene photos. The police found that same symbol carved into trees around where they found the children. They thought it was some kind of occult ritual. But they could never figure out what it meant. He pulled out a photograph from the newspaper archive. It showed Theodore Crane standing with his class in 1923. He looked exactly like the man teaching my son. Same face. Same dark eyes. Same 3-piece suit. That's impossible, I whispered. That was 100 years ago. Howard nodded slowly. There were rumors back then. That Crane wasn't human. That he'd been seen in town before. In 1823. In 1773. Always as a teacher. Always taking children. Always leaving bodies in circles. The town tried to forget. But some of us remember. He looked at me with haunted eyes. My grandfather was one of the investigators. He wrote in his diary that Crane needed 7 children to complete something. A ritual that would give him eternal life. He got 6 in 1923. He's been waiting 100 years for the 7th. And now he's found Felix. I went straight to the police with everything I'd found. The historical records. The newspaper articles. The drawings. The officer at the desk listened politely, then called his supervisor. The supervisor, a woman named Captain Hayes, looked at my evidence and sighed. Miss Vivian, I understand you're concerned about your son. But this is a 100-year-old cold case and some drawings. Mr. Crane has been thoroughly vetted by the school district. He's an excellent teacher. Multiple parents have praised him. You can't accuse someone of being an immortal serial killer based on old photographs and a child's artwork. She handed everything back to me. I suggest you speak with a therapist. Stress can make us see patterns that aren't there. I left the police station feeling crushed. No one would believe me. I had proof and it meant nothing. That night, Felix woke up screaming. When I ran to his room, he was standing at the window, staring out, whispering, 3 more days. The circle must close. He's calling me. I have to go. I have to finish it. I grabbed his shoulders. He turned to me with eyes that weren't his own. Black. Completely black. And he smiled. Hello, Vivian. We'll see each other soon. The next morning, Felix had no memory of the night before. But when he changed for school, I saw it. On his left shoulder blade. A symbol. The same symbol from all his drawings. Burned into his skin like a brand. Dark purple against his pale skin. Felix, I whispered, my voice shaking. What is that? He twisted, trying to look in the mirror. What's what, Mom? He couldn't see it. It was like the mark didn't exist to him at all. But I could see it clearly. I took a photo with my phone. When I looked at the image, my stomach dropped. The symbol glowed faintly. Not bright. Just enough to be wrong. That afternoon, I went to the school. I told the front desk I was volunteering for recess duty. I walked the playground slowly, pretending to supervise. I counted 6 other children with the same mark on their left shoulder blades. All boys. All 9 years old. All smiling and happy and completely unaware. The 7 children from the drawings. The ritual was almost complete. I had maybe 48 hours before Mr. Crane took them. Before he finished what he started in 1923. Before my son became the 7th and final sacrifice that would make this creature immortal forever. I went back to Howard at the library. He was closing when I arrived, but when he saw my face, he let me in. You saw the mark, didn't you? It wasn't a question. I nodded. My son. And 6 others. We have 2 days. Maybe less. How do I stop him? Howard led me to a locked room in the basement. Inside were boxes of his grandfather's investigation notes. Journals. Photos. Maps. My grandfather spent 40 years trying to stop Crane. He died believing he'd failed. But before he died, he left instructions. Specific steps to break the ritual and destroy the creature. He pulled out a worn leather journal. You need 3 things. Crane's true name from before he became whatever he is now. Something he created with his own hands during the first ritual. And the willing choice of one of the marked children to refuse the call. He looked at me seriously. The last part is the hardest. Because the children want to go. The mark makes them trust him completely. They'll fight you to reach him when he calls. You'll have to convince Felix to resist. And if he can't, all 7 will die. The true name was buried in a church record from 1773. The first recorded appearance of the teacher in Millbrook. Back then, he called himself Nathaniel Cross. A schoolmaster who offered free education to poor families. 7 boys went missing that winter. Their bodies were found in the old church. Arranged in a circle and drained. The priest who found them wrote that Cross had been attempting a ritual from a forbidden text. Something that would bind 7 souls to his own and grant him eternal life. But the priest interrupted it. Destroyed the circle. Cross fled before he could complete it. The priest wrote the name in his journal. Nathaniel Cross, born 1643, died 1672, buried Millbrook Cemetery. Rose from death 1673 with a new purpose. To live forever by consuming the innocent. That was his true name. Nathaniel Cross. A man who had died and come back as something else. Something that needed to take poor kid's life to maintain his existence. For 250 years, he'd been trying to complete the ritual. Felix was his last chance. Finding what Cross created during the first ritual was harder. Howard's grandfather had searched for decades. But in his final journal entry, he'd written a clue. The teacher always wears the same silver pocket watch. I saw it in the 1923 photo. My father saw it in an 1823 painting. It never ages. Never stops. It's his anchor to this world. I pulled up photos from Felix's classroom that the school had posted online. In every single one, Mr. Crane wore the same silver pocket watch on a chain. That was the object. The thing he'd created during the first ritual. The anchor that let him return every time. The source of his power. Without it, he'd be vulnerable. But getting it meant getting close. Close enough to take it from him. Close enough that he'd know what I was planning. And close enough that he could take Felix immediately. I was running out of time. The full moon was tomorrow night. The ritual would happen then. I had less than 24 hours. That night, Felix tried to leave the house at midnight. I caught him at the front door, dressed, walking in his sleep. His eyes were open but empty. The circle calls. I must go. Mr. Crane is waiting. It's time. I locked every door and window. Put a chair under Felix's bedroom doorknob. But at 2 a.m., I found him in the living room, drawing. The same symbol. Over and over. Hundreds of times covering every surface. The walls, the floor, the furniture were covered in maca. When I touched his shoulder, he turned. His eyes were black again. Tomorrow night. Vivian. The moon will be full. The circle will close. 7 will become 1. And I will finally be complete. Mr. Crane's voice came from my son's mouth. You can't stop what's already begun. The marks are set. The children are mine. They'll come willingly. Joyfully. Because I've made them love me. Felix collapsed. I caught him before he hit the floor. This wasn't possession. It was a connection. Mr. Crane could see through Felix and speak through him. The mark wasn't just a symbol. It was a doorway, and tomorrow night, it would open completely. I called Howard at 6 a.m. We're out of time. The ritual is tonight. I need help. He was silent for a moment. My grandson. Tommy. He's 9. He's in Mr. Crane's class. He has the mark too. His voice broke. I won't lose him like my grandfather lost those children. Tell me what you need. We had one chance. One desperate, dangerous plan. I would go to the school during the day and distract Mr. Crane. Keep him focused on me. While he was distracted, Howard would break into his classroom and steal the pocket watch. Once we had it, we'd take all 7 children to the old church where the first ritual was interrupted. We'd speak his true name 3 times while holding the watch. And we'd pray it was enough to break his power before the full moon rose at 9:23 p.m. It was insane. It probably wouldn't work. But it was all we had. I dropped Felix at school that morning knowing it might be the last time I saw him as my son. If this failed, Mr. Crane would take him tonight. And I'd never get him back. I walked into Mr. Crane's classroom at noon. The children were at lunch. He was alone, grading papers. When he saw me, he smiled. Vivian. I wondered when you'd come. I closed the door behind me. I know what you are. Nathaniel Cross. I know about 1773. About 1823. About 1923. I know you need 7 children to complete your ritual. And I'm here to tell you that you won't get my son. He set down his pen slowly. You've been busy. Talking to Howard. Reading old journals. Connecting dots no one else can see. He stood. But it doesn't matter. The marks are set. The children are bound to me. Tonight, when the moon rises, they'll come. All 7. Felix will lead them. Because he trusts me more than he trusts you. His eyes went completely black. I've been waiting 250 years for this moment. Do you really think a desperate mother can stop me? I smiled. No. But she can distract you. His expression changed to confusion, then rage. Where is he? I didn't answer, because Howard was already inside the classroom, taking the pocket watch from Crane's coat. We'd planned it perfectly, timed it exactly, and now we had what we needed. Mr. Crane's scream shattered every window in the school. Glass exploded outward as children screamed from the cafeteria and teachers flooded the hallways. And then he changed. His human shape peeled away like a mask. What stood before me was over 7 feet tall, impossibly thin, with skin like brittle paper and eyes so dark they looked like black holes. His mouth stretched far too wide, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. You took it. The voice came from everywhere at once. Give it back. He lunged. I ran. Out of the classroom, down the hallway. Behind me, I felt him coming. He wasn't walking or running. It felt like reality itself was tearing as he moved through it. I burst through the front doors. Howard was waiting in his truck, engine already running. I jumped inside. Drive! He slammed the gas. In the rearview mirror, I saw Mr. Crane standing on the school steps, no longer pretending to be human. Teachers were screaming. Children were crying. The creature had finally revealed itself. Then something worse happened. Crane raised his arms, and the 7 marked children walked out of the school in silence. Like sleepwalkers. Like puppets. Including Felix. All of them moving toward him. We have to get to the church before sunset. I shouted. Howard nodded. We had 4 hours. Maybe less. The children were already being called. And nothing would stop them from reaching Crane before the ritual. Nothing except us. The church from 1773 was abandoned. Burned out and reduced to stone walls and a collapsed roof. But the floor remained intact. And carved into the stone was the same symbol from Felix's drawings. A circle waiting to be completed. We arrived at 7 p.m. The sun was setting. The full moon would rise in 2 hours and 23 minutes. Howard set up candles around the circle. My grandfather's journal says we need to stand in the center. Hold the pocket watch. Speak his true name 3 times. And destroy the watch while calling him out. I held the silver watch. It was cold. Too cold. And inside I could hear ticking. But it wasn't mechanical. It was heartbeats. 7 distinct heartbeats. The children he'd taken. The souls he'd consumed. What about Felix and the others? Howard's face was grim. They'll come here. Drawn by the ritual. When Crane arrives, he'll try to complete the circle. We have to break his power before that happens. If we succeed, the marks will fade and the children will be free. If we fail... He didn't finish. He didn't have to. If we failed, 7 more children would die tonight. And Crane would become truly immortal. They came at 8:45 p.m. 7 children walking out of the woods. Silent. Eyes black. Moving in perfect unison. Felix was in front. Leading them. They walked straight to the circle and took their positions. Standing around the edge. Evenly spaced. Waiting. I tried to reach Felix. Baby, it's Mom. You need to fight this. You need to resist. He looked at me. But it wasn't Felix looking out. It was Crane. He can't hear you, Vivian. None of them can. They're mine now. They've always been mine. From the moment I mocked them. The sun touched the horizon. The full moon rose opposite. For a brief moment, both were visible. Day and night together. The perfect time for the ritual. And then Crane arrived. Not walking. Not appearing. He was simply there. In the center of the circle. Towering over the children. His true form fully revealed. Ancient. Hungry. Wrong. Thank you for bringing my watch to the place of power, he said, his voice like grinding stone. You've made this so much easier. He reached for it. And I realized we'd walked into a trap. Howard grabbed my arm. We tried to run, but we couldn't leave the circle. Some invisible force held us inside. Crane laughed. Did you really think I didn't know you had my watch? I let you take it. I wanted you here. Wanted you inside the circle. Because the ritual requires 2 witnesses. 2 people who tried to stop it and failed. You've completed the requirements. The children began to chant in an ancient language. The symbols on the ground started to glow. And I felt my life force draining. Pulled toward Crane. Toward the watch in my hand. No! I looked at Felix. At his blank face. At the mark on his shoulder glowing bright purple. And I did the only thing I could think of. I threw the pocket watch to him. Felix! Catch! His hand moved automatically. Caught it. And for just a second his eyes cleared. Brown again. Confused. Mom. That one word. That one moment of recognition. It broke something in the ritual. The chanting faltered. The glow flickered. And I saw our chance. Share this story if you've ever had to fight for someone you love against impossible odds. Felix! I screamed. You have to choose. You have to refuse him. Say no. Say you won't be part of this. Felix stared at the watch in his hand. Then at Crane. Then at me. I could see the fight inside him. 2 forces tearing him apart. The mark on his shoulder pulling him to obey. And his love for me pulling him back. Felix, I said, my voice shaking. I need you to be brave. Braver than you've ever been. You have to say no. Even when every part of you wants to say yes. You have to refuse. Tears streamed down his face. It hurts, Mom, he sobbed. He's in my head. He keeps telling me I'll be special. That I'll be powerful. That I'll never be bullied again. I dropped to my knees. I know, baby. I know it hurts. But you're already special. You're already powerful. And you don't need him. You just need to choose yourself. Choose to live. Choose to be free. Felix looked down at the watch. At the trapped heartbeats inside it. At the weight of 250 years of stolen lives. And he whispered, no. Then louder, no. He hurled the watch onto the stone and stomped on it with everything he had. The watch shattered. 7 lights burst free. Blinding, pure, and alive. They rose into the air, bright as stars. The souls of the 7 children Crane had consumed were finally free. The creature screamed. The sound shook the ground. Trees bent. The air fractured, like reality itself was tearing apart. What have you done? His form began to collapse, melting and dissolving, sloughing away like rot. The children dropped to their knees, gasping for breath. The marks on their shoulders darkened, crumbled, and turned to ash, blowing away on the wind. The glow of the circle faded to nothing. Howard grabbed the journal and began to read. Nathaniel Cross. Born 1643. Died 1672. I name you. Crane's scream grew louder, higher, desperate. Nathaniel Cross. Consumer of innocence. I name you. The creature shrank, withered, folding in on itself. No longer towering. No longer powerful. Just something small and terrified. Nathaniel Cross. Howard shouted. I cast you out. The third naming broke him. Crane exploded into dust. Gray ash that smelled of centuries of death. It settled onto the stone and went still. The children looked scared and confused. The marks on their body were gone. The ritual was broken, and Nathaniel Cross was finally, truly dead. After 250 years of hunting children, he was destroyed by a 9-year-old boy. By choosing to say no. The story the town was told was simple. There had been a gas leak at the old church. 7 children were found wandering in a state of shock. Mr. Crane had simply disappeared. Nobody questioned it. The school hired a new teacher. The parents were relieved. And the children remembered nothing. Nothing about the marks. Nothing about the ritual. Felix came home that night and slept for 14 hours straight. When he woke, he was different. More confident. Stronger. His stutter was gone. Not because of Crane's manipulation, but because he had faced something terrifying. And he had won. He had saved himself and 6 other children by making the hardest choice of his life. Howard and I became friends. We burned his grandfather's journals. The watch was destroyed. The creature was dead. Some secrets are better buried. But Howard kept one thing. A photo of the 7 children from that night. All of them were smiling. All of them were free. He hung it in the library with a small plaque that read, "In memory of those who chose courage over comfort." Only we knew what it really meant. Felix is 12 now. Healthy. Happy. With no memory of Mr. Crane or the marks. But sometimes, late at night, he wakes from dreams he can't quite remember. He comes to my room and asks me to tell him about being brave. About choosing the hard thing instead of the easy thing. I tell him the truth, without telling him everything. Sometimes, I say, people will offer you things that seem perfect. They'll promise to make you special. To solve all your problems. To take away your pain. But if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And the cost is always higher than they tell you. If only I had questioned why Mr. Crane knew things about my son that nobody should know. If only I had trusted my instincts from the beginning. But I didn't. And I almost lost everything. So I'm writing this as a warning. If someone takes too much interest in your child, if they promise things that seem impossible, if they make you feel like you're crazy for being concerned, trust your gut. Ask questions. Dig deeper. Because some teachers aren't there to educate. They're there to harvest. And the price of ignoring your instincts is always paid by the ones you love most. I learned that the hard way. And I hope you never have to. If this story gave you chills or made you think twice about ignoring red flags, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Have you ever had a gut feeling about someone that turned out to be right? Subscribe for more stories about trusting your instincts, because sometimes being overprotective is better than being sorry.